Good afternoon! My name is Brad Trammell, and in this report, I'll be making the case for affordable art as a way of rethinking who art's for and what art's about. We've been taught there's only two acceptable outcomes for selling your work through galleries. Either you can make many thousands of dollars, or you can make $0, meaning the work goes unsold and gathers dust in your closet forever. We've been told this all or nothing approach is to protect artist markets, but as we'll see, it's really just a way of protecting collectors. This report is not theoretical. It's a practical guide for why selling your work affordably positively alters what art you make and the type of audience you have. This is a report about artists taking control of their own distribution and why doing so is the ethically and creatively superior option to the Count Chocula alternative. Affordable art. It's an idea so crazy it just might work. Any case for why artists should make their work affordable first requires knowing how art's prices got to be as astronomically high as they are today. And all you have to do to figure that out is to look at the place where art is sold. An art gallery is a purposely empty retail space that only displays a dozen items for sale at a time in one of the most expensive neighborhoods in the world, where it's open to the public maybe 4 days a week, and the other 3 days it's closed despite nothing happening inside the gallery Monday through Wednesday. Only a handful of people wander into the retail space each day, but these people are admittedly not customers. These gallery goers are there just to look at the art and leave. Galleries are also only open 9 out of 12 months a year because they close over the summer to accommodate collectors' vacation schedules. For the 9 months a gallery is open, most of the work is digitally sold through a PDF on the opening night of their monthly exhibition. So, to recap, out of 365 days a year, there are really only 9 days where a gallery is likely to make any money from that location. Between time management, inventory, location, every single thing about galleries' luxury business model is designed for them to spend the maximum amount of money on rent with the absolute fewest opportunities to pay that rent. This puts an enormous amount of pressure on galleries to sell the precious few art objects they have available for the absolute highest price possible. This is all part of a culturally specific marketing scheme to emphasize the idea of prestige through scarcity. In the rare cases where this luxury pricing actually works, the gallery is forced to continually raise prices until they run out of collectors who can afford the work, at which point the artist leaves the gallery for a larger one. Like I mentioned in the exit report, in the long term, galleries are fucked either way, which is why most galleries only exist for like 5 years max now. Even new galleries run by young people plod forward, continuing the same luxury business model despite seeing a record number of small and mid-tier galleries go out of business in recent years. But more important than the hundreds of gallerists are the thousands upon thousands of artists for whom this luxury business model does not work. And the reason luxury galleries don't work for artists is because they don't pay them. Built into every exhibition, whether it's a solo show or a group show, is the likely outcome that you will be paid nothing for showing there. The work doesn't sell? Too bad, you get nothing. Galleries get to use your name, likeness, exhibit your work, and rely on you for promotion, all for the low price of absolutely nothing. And you're supposed to thank them for it. The truth is, galleries don't give artists exhibition opportunities. Artists give galleries exhibition opportunities by letting them borrow their work for all the talk from galleries about how their roster is their family and we're all creative partners in this together. Artists are not partners in the business of a gallery. Even represented artists are treated as contingently unpaid interns, despite the fact that they create the actual work the gallery becomes known for. A real partnership between gallery and artist means sharing the cost of production. It means being regularly paid as an employee. It means some level of profit sharing across exhibitions. What the fuck does representation even mean absent any of these material things? How can we ever expect to end unpaid internships at galleries when the artists on the wall at the gallery aren't even guaranteed pay? Absent an actual material partnership, artists should at very least have the option to sell their work to the gallery up front instead of waiting for potential sales to come in later. After purchasing work from the artist, the gallery can then sell the inventory they own to collectors. This is how most retail spaces operate who haven't brainwashed their wholesalers into thinking they're part of the business. McDonald's doesn't pay cow farmers a fraction of every single Big Mac after they sell them. Guaranteed gallery pay makes a clear distinction in labor. It's the artist's job to create art, and it's the gallery's job to sell art. Why are artists paid according to a dealer's ability to sell? In a sales process, artists have nothing to do with. Artists are responsible for 100% of the creation of their work, but assume half the risk of selling the work in a process where they don't even have contact with the collectors. There's nothing artists can do to positively influence the outcome of a sale once their work has already been chosen for exhibition by the gallery. Once the artist has completed their work and the work's been selected to be in a show, the artist's job is over and they should be compensated for it. The finish line for the artist is the exhibition, not the sale. If the dealer deems the work good enough to be in the gallery, then it should be good enough for the dealer to actually invest in it as a retailer. We don't expect art handlers to be paid based on whether the work they install in the gallery sells or not, nor should we, because it's a separate job from sales with a separate set of responsibilities for completion. Now, I remember when I made a post about guaranteed pay, and the number one response I got was this: "But Brad, if galleries know they have to pay artists up front, that'll make galleries more likely to exhibit easily sellable work, eliminating the chance for difficult artists to get exhibitions." My only response to this is to look the fuck around. Selling pretty nonsense is what galleries are already doing. The luxury gallery world we reside in now is already a culturally irrelevant wasteland of thoughtless abstractions, tabletop ceramics, and paintings by boomers who've been repeating themselves for 50 fucking years. Go to any art fair. Take a walk through Chelsea. The luxury gallery world is already risk averse while still exploiting artists to exhibit for free. There is no difficult avant-garde utopia in galleries to protect. These galleries are businesses that will always choose to exhibit art they believe they can sell. And if you're willing to offer them your work for free with no financial guarantee, they'll gladly accept it, because reserving the right to not pay you anything is financially advantageous to them as a business. The truth is, guaranteed pay is a nice idea. It's a slightly more ethical way artists and dealers could coexist, but it'll never happen because of the real scarcity in the luxury art world, which is a scarcity of collectors. As artists, I think we have to admit that for all the benefits art offers, sometimes art can be a tough sell for a luxury price. It's non-functional, it might make you uncomfortable, it might require its own storage, it might be made of stuff that falls apart. You know, art presents challenges, it's supposed to. And when it comes to the luxury art market, there's simply not enough people who are wealthy enough to buy the many thousands of art objects from the many thousands of galleries who offer them for many thousands of dollars. There's a lot more luxury art being made than there are people willing to buy it for luxury prices. And this surplus of luxury art doesn't mean galleries are ever willing to lower prices when they exhibit work that doesn't sell. The only time galleries offer a significant discount is when they know a work will sell to a collector who will donate it to a museum. But if the work isn't generating interest, dealers aren't going to knock a zero off the price tag because of how desperate it would appear, because of how poorly it would reflect on their programming, which is built on prestige through scarcity. For a gallery to suddenly make unsold work newly affordable is almost like breaking kayfabe. It's an illusion-shattering admission that art's luxury price is just made up as it goes along, instead of being an empiric reflection of its inherent cultural worth. On a more practical level, the reason galleries don't lower the price on work that goes unsold is because it gives a resale advantage to newer collectors of an artist who could make a better profit than collectors who previously paid full price. Lowering prices would mean burning the relationships with day one collectors who've already invested in the work at the highest price it was offered at. So, once a dealer sets a price, it can never go down. It can only go up or stay even as a way of protecting existing collectors' investments from ever being undercut. This is the same reason why dealers will bid on their own artist's work at auction to ensure its price stays at or above the price they currently offer it for through their gallery. This is the same reason why dealers don't want their artists selling out of their studios at a discount. When dealers talk about protecting an artist's market, what they're really talking about is protecting the investments of the collectors they've convinced to buy in. This is the basis for galleries' all or nothing sales approach. It's preferable for dealers to see work go unsold by an artist than to ever sell work for a lower price and risk losing a collector. A dealer can only do a show with an artist, like 1 out of 9 months per year? But a dealer can pitch a collector to buy work from every single exhibition they do. Consistent collectors are a more scarce resource to galleries than their own artists, which is why galleries work so hard to protect their collectors' interests. Galleries' unwillingness to lower prices in order to better reflect demand means the margins for running these spaces are very slim. The only reason most galleries are able to open in the first place is because they never have to pay their artists up front as they would any other member of their staff, from their registrar to their plumber, and in many cases use the money they make from new sales to pay back previous debts. This is why artists constantly talk about not being paid for months or even years after their work's already been sold. The option to not pay artists, neither upfront nor after the work has been sold, is the only wiggle room galleries have in their accounting books, and they take advantage of it. Luxury pricing doesn't just limit the quantity of people art is made available to, but also the quality of people as well, by necessitating a cozy relationship with some of the most reprehensible Jeffrey Epstein Black Book wealth criminals in existence. Museum and gallery patrons like tear gas magnate Warren Kanders aren't a defect, they're a coveted feature of an art economy perpetually dependent on large infusions of tax-deductible cash. You can't have one without the other. The symbolic victory of removing any one of art's particularly egregious billionaire patrons comes at the expense of acknowledging the general evil any other billionaire patron perpetuates. If the goal is to separate art from being exclusively dependent on bad people, then the idea of symbolically sacrificing one billionaire at a time at the crowded altar of cancellation is what could be described as a top-down method that emphasizes preferable optics while still maintaining art's status as a luxury good. The alternative to this would be a ground-up method enacted by artists using affordability as a way to materially reconfigure who sells art, who gets to own art, and what type of art is made. This is why any case to be made for affordable art is simultaneously a case to be made for artists taking control of selling their own work instead of operating through middlemen. I should mention up front that artists selling their own work isn't an inherently individualist project. There's plenty of ways to structure a gallery or online storefront or lottery in a way that's cooperative with other artists. I've even made a couple posts about it. What I'm talking about is predicated on the idea of artists controlling the means of distribution by removing managers, dealers, advisors, trustees, any and all middlemen who don't create art, but whose job is to carefully control the flow of art into the hands of wealth criminals whose interests they protect. To kick it off, here's a thought exercise for affordable art. So hit the DMT pen real quick and just dream with me for a second. Imagine if the masses of people who are currently art's audience, who follow artists on social media, who poke their head in galleries and museums, imagine if that audience were also art's patrons. Imagine if there was no waitlist barrier to entry for anyone who looks at art to own art. Imagine if art cost as much as a video game or a dinner date or a pair of shoes. Imagine if access to owning art was as simple as access to owning any other cultural good like music or fashion. Imagine a world where gaudy plastic toys weren't the only thing resembling art available for adults to own. Imagine how different attitudes towards government funding for art would be if a vast swath of people owned art themselves or knew someone who did. Imagine how different collector culture would be if it was literally millions of ordinary people instead of the same 1,000 villains vacationing from art fair to art fair. Imagine how specific and weird and exciting the type of art made could be if it didn't feel the need to cater to those same 1,000 people's bland aristocratic taste. The more you think about affordable art sold by artists, the weirder it seems that it isn't the norm. If enough artists were to exit, to stop paying into the hustle pyramid scheme of group show clout tokens and decided to take control of distribution for themselves, this could be the new normal by tomorrow. It's not like artists are being held back from doing this by all the money they make from galleries. The biggest impediment to artists taking control of their own distribution and offering work affordably are the mental goblins of prestige through scarcity we as artists have internalized from years of hustling up the debt pyramid. As artists, no one ever asks us to make art. At the heart of artists' insecurities is the fact that everything we do is ultimately unprompted. Artists put things into the world, and then an audience finds the work they relate to. Art can be relevant or timely, but artists aren't given assignments by anyone. It always comes from the artist first. That freedom to make whatever and see what happens is the exhilarating and scary and risky thing about being an artist that's never really reconciled. So when a gallery comes along and says, I choose you to exhibit, artists are able to press pause on that existential crisis by accepting their support. A scheduled gallery exhibition is the closest thing to a direct mandate for creation most artists will ever experience. As a result, artists have allowed galleries to become their reason for existence, the thing that makes them valid in their own eyes. Most artists accept the fact that they won't be paid by a gallery because all they really want is affirmation of their work's existence from the gallery. But there's another existential crisis lurking in the background for artists considering selling work affordably, one of embarrassment and shame and public humiliation. What if I make my work available and no one wants it? With a gallery, there's an intermediary and the sales process is private, but not if I publicly sell it myself for a price my friends could afford. First off, it's fine if your work doesn't sell. I've released hundreds of works of art for affordable prices that no one ever bought, but I still like the idea that they were available if someone wanted to. Sometimes it takes a while to find the right audience for affordable work and to figure out exactly what you want to make. Art can be ahead of its audience or behind its audience. Not all art needs to sell. On the other hand, I think for some people this is a valid fear because they make work exclusively designed to cater to wealthy collectors' taste. For these people, the white cube is like a biodome that creates the only possible living conditions under which their work would be appealing to a select few. But for everyone else, it's worth remembering that the majority of people who follow your work aren't wealth criminals. A majority of people who hit like on your Instagram post of your piece in the show aren't wealth criminals. For most artists, the majority of people who want to support your work have never been given the chance to do so. Shit, most artists can't even afford their own work from their gallery. Aside from these crises in the back of artists' minds, when I talk to artists about affordable art, there's a bunch of responses at the front of their minds too. So let's go through those. The first thing people say is, well, affordable art means my work has to be some tiny, thoughtless, cheap thing, and I only want to make large, complex, expensive things. One of the biggest misconceptions about affordable art is that it can't have any production value, that it has to be a low-cost art object in order to sell it for a low price, or else you obviously risk losing money. The truth is, through a lottery system, you can sell enough affordable tickets to match the ideal price of a work with high production value. It's just the difference between a lot of normal people paying a little money for a chance versus one villainous person paying a lot of money to buy it outright. I think everyone's seen enough Kickstarter campaigns to understand the pool sum of a lottery can pay back production costs if there's enough popular interest among supporters. But I would ask in response, where does the artist's interest in exclusively making very expensive things come from? When you've internalized the logic of a luxury market your entire life, there's a natural inclination to make things that are self-evidently expensive to justify their high costs. This way of thinking isn't a reflection of artistic interests, but of the taste of wealthy collectors, who art would no longer be dependent on if it were made affordable. In other words, if you think making really expensive work is the only form of expression available to you, it's worth asking yourself, why exactly do I believe that? A lot of artists who bring up perceived size or production limitations of affordable art will also bring up the criticism that exhibiting work in a gallery is their ideal neutral venue. The truth is, galleries present way more rules and limitations than the affordable alternative. We've already gone through the number of days per year galleries are even open, let alone the types of work you're compelled to create once you exhibit there. Selling your own work means making whatever you want, whenever you want, for whoever you want, at any price you want. You can do it online. You can rent your own venue. The options are endless. To be honest, I don't think artists really believe in the neutral freedom galleries offer so much as they understand what the procedure of showing in a gallery is like, more than they're familiar with what it means to sell your own work affordably. Better the devil you know, right? This is especially true when there isn't much of an existing discourse around affordable art, and when plastic toys or deviant art are consistently used as boogeymen for what affordability has to look like. The only time we see famous artists offer affordable art is when they're selling $3,000 skateboards on the New Museum website, in which case the work is neither truly affordable nor is it what their art usually looks like. The only reason it's able to be priced lower is because it's a merchandise novelty, totally separate from the luxury work they're otherwise taken seriously for. And this is where we get into another reservation artists have about affordability. Deep down, a lot of artists believe price is a reflection of quality. So, offering your work for a lower price means you're inherently making shittier work. Obviously, I don't think price is an effective way to qualitatively judge much of anything. Otherwise, Jeff Bezos would be the best person in the world. But even if you were to put your fedora on and follow the pure capitalist logic of this, that people pay more for things that are better, therefore things that cost the most are the best. Even if you believed this, the highest priced art still wouldn't reflect quality because the art market is a Ponzi scheme insularly run by 1,000 people. It's literally used in economics books as the opposite of a free market. The fact that some art prices go up higher than others means nothing in a market where art's prices aren't even allowed to go down. In art, price isn't a variable tied to quality. Price reflects the artificially propped up demand of a meaninglessly small sample size of luxury buyers. And when you look at it that way, it's just a matter of figuring out whose demand am I fulfilling? One person for $5,000 or 1,000 people for $5? The question of who do you make work for cuts to the core of what do you make? And when it comes to what do you make, the final thing artists hold out as a reservation is the idea that affordability means catering to the lowest common denominator. There's a grain of truth in this and a large misconception. The grain of truth is that yes, making affordable art is different from making gallery work. Affordable art is an inherently populist project, and the work you make will likely reflect that. But the misconception is that populism means creating what is popular, which is not the case. Populism is a political approach that strives to appeal to ordinary people who feel that their concerns are disregarded by established elite groups. This is why populism and affordable art go so well together. Art is made to be a reflection of the time in which it exists, but art is limited in this aim because the market surrounding it only allows it to reflect wealthy people's taste. Affordable art is made to reflect everyone else's taste, the disregarded majority. Populism doesn't mean painting the prettiest picture. In some ways, that's what gallery work tends to do. Populism is about identifying the interests and beliefs you share with others that aren't currently depicted through art and giving that a voice. Populism isn't giving people what they want. It's about creating a connection with other people that didn't previously exist. Affordable arts populism is about bringing art into the actual world instead of trimming moldy little slices of reality and dropping them into the white cube biodome for collectors to eat. When people talk about affordable art catering to the lowest common denominator, a lot of their ire seems to be directed at the idea that art would dare to reflect the interests of people other than its creator alone, as though making art isn't a social act that always requires the interpretation of others. This is the type of nonsense mindset you get into when you've been in a basement huffing enough International Art English and Contemporary Art Daily group shows to the point where you think the purpose of being an artist is to create an unsolvable Rubik's Cube of references and materials that lead to nowhere other than a crumpled receipt of your own scattered interests, that your creativity is judged on a scale of how well you're able to alienate everyone who attempts to understand what the fuck you're doing. Affordable art isn't about creating an island for yourself. It's about creating an imaginary world other people want to inhabit too. Because for them, the world you create feels like a more accurate depiction of reality than reality itself. It's about putting words and images to feelings they've had but couldn't quite articulate. Affordable art is an olive branch to a new audience, to a new type of art world with a different version of patronage. And what excites me the most is that the only way to garner these new audiences is to create new types of art capable of speaking to them. So if you grow tired of the all or nothing binary because you find out that most all people make nothing from it, try making affordable art. You have nothing to lose but your hustle.